Hi everyone, my name is Shawn Wolf. This is my narrative speech for my Fundamentals of Oral Communications class. When I was a teenager, I thought that my parents had rules that were made for no reason. They made no sense to me. I thought that they were just very restrictive and they were in place to limit my fun. Of course, as I grew older and became a parent myself, I realized that this really wasn't the case, that rules are there to guide and protect children, not to limit or punish them. In essence, parents really do know best. Lesson learned. Do you remember a time that your parents asked you not to do something but you did it anyway? Do you remember what you were thinking at the time that you did it? Do you remember, or was there any direct consequence for what you had done? There are two times myself from when I was younger, a teenager, that I vividly remember what happened when I did something that my parents had asked me not to do. Not realizing at the time that my parents had asked me not to do it for moral safety or even possibly legal reasons. It was spring. I just had turned 16. I hadn't been driving all that long and hadn't had a whole lot of experience driving. My dad being the father of 3 girls, never having a son and always wanting one, and I being the oldest, chose a car that was a little bit of a muscle car, and he kind of had fixed it up to his liking, maybe a little bit more than mine. But he did tell me to, always drive safely, follow all of the laws as far as driving goes, and no messing around, that there was a little bit more power to the car and so forth. And so I always promised him that, of course, I would. But one spring day, I remember it vividly, it was very sunny out, very nice. I picked a couple girlfriends up, and we were in a really good mood, talking, laughing, of course had the music going, and I come up to a stop sign, and my girlfriend said, "Squeal your tires," and I said, "Oh gosh, I don't know, but of course falling to a little bit of pressure, I did, and in the process of doing that, I hit a patch of gravel and ended up spinning the car completely around and ending up in somebody's front lawn, almost going through their living room. It didn't seem as though anybody was home at the time, and I was hoping nobody had seen it. My girlfriends were scared. I was very scared, so I actually just backed up out of the yard and drove home, hoping that nobody had seen it. To my surprise, a little bit later, the sheriff came knocking at our door. The gentleman who actually lived in the home that I'd almost driven my car through was home at the time and got my license plate. So next thing I knew, my dad was asking me what had happened, and I had to tell the whole story about it. Not realizing at that time that such a small little incident could cause me to lose my license until I was 18 years of age, and also a pretty hefty fine. Needless to say, that did not happen to me. The gentleman's yard that I actually drove into, he was a very nice gentleman and just asked that we replace the grass seed to help him regrow some of the grass that I had tore up in his front yard. So I was lucky in that incident, but I remember having the discussion with my father at that time and then realizing what he really meant when he had asked me not to do that kind of a thing, and also just kind of seeing the look in his eye of disappointment when it did happen. So I was pretty fortunate at that time. There was another time when I was a little bit older, had a little bit more experience with driving and so forth. This was more of a moral issue, and it kind of deals with, when you're 17 years old, and what does a 17-year-old think about when it comes to morals? You really don't think that it's important, or it doesn't really so much have anything to do with you at the time, and again, you kind of go back to thinking, the parents' rules are a little too strict and so forth. So I had been out with my boyfriend at that time and some friends. We were on our way back home and came upon my boyfriend's apartment completely engulfed in flames. The fire department and so forth was already there, getting out, and learning that it was a complete loss and that my boyfriend at that time had lost everything. We decided, all of my friends and I together, because it was late and it was a winter night, it was cold, it was snowing. My boyfriend, of course, at that time was very upset. We decided to put all of our money together and get a motel room so that we could kind of sit around and chat about it. Nobody wanted to contact their parents that late, and of course, decided that was the best thing to do at the time. So we did, and we spent the evening talking about things. When we got up the next morning and I was ready to take everybody home, realized that my car was not there, and I actually could see the tracks in the snow where the car had been driven off. I, of course, turned to my dad and called him to let him know that I thought the car had been stolen, and he told me no, that wasn't the case. He actually at that time owned a garbage business, and one of his trucks had come by the motel to pick up the garbage early that morning and spotted my car, called my dad, and my dad came and picked my car up. So at that time, my dad was very upset with me, didn't understand what had happened, and told me I needed to find my own way home, and we'd discuss it once I got home. Again, of course, once I got home, realized again that the rules that Dad had in place were for a good reason, and that it was a moral issue, and he was upset that I hadn't called him to let him know and hadn't actually just brought my friends home. So again, just realize that the parents' rules are in place to guide and protect their children and not to limit or punish them. Parents really do know best. Rules may seem oppressive and senseless at times, but they're in place for good reasons. So, and as I've grown older and, like I said, become a parent myself, I've had to enforce some of those rules and have realized myself how important they truly are. So, the physicist Albert Einstein said the world is a dangerous place not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. So that is my narrative speech for, again, Fundamentals of Oral Communication. Thank you.